Hello, and always welcome to another webcast interview here on ESG TV. My name is Raj Arya, and hope all you viewers are well with the normalization of everyday life as we enter the RMCO here in Malaysia. We also hope you all had a chance to catch our special Regeneration Team Forum on IR 4.0 last week, which was coincidentally moderated by our guest today, who is none other than Dr. RAHMAT Shazi, the Technology Director of ShazInnovation Solutions. Dr. RAHMAT, thank you for being with us here today.
Thank you for having me.
No worries. Now, of course, before we dive into today's topic, given the fact that you moderated that forum last week, could you just share with our viewers some of the major takeaways that you have seen last week?
Sure. Thank you very much, Raj. Now, pertaining to the session or forum that we had last week, some of the major takeaways include, one, we need to actually understand that the advent of Industry 4.0, it has already arrived on our shores. It's not, it's not coming another couple of years or couple of months. It's here already. So we need to actually learn how to actually leverage on these tools, because a big portion of people will actually adopt and adapt to its functionalities. If we do not adopt and adapt to them, we're going to lose out. We're going to miss out on a lot of opportunities, and at the end of the day, we may even lose the opportunity to actually get the regeneration agenda out there to the public. We just need to actually find ways of achieving economic parity. Just to share with you, interestingly enough, our session was last Friday. On Monday, a good friend of mine, Dr. Gabriel Walter, who is the CEO of QEOS Television, his company actually manufactures television using his proprietary technology. He decided, you know what, I've got the money, I'm going to turn the 700,000 square feet warehouse that I have in Malacca into vertical farming. And he picked that up from our conversation. Guess that? Just think, it actually does have an impact, what we do here.
Right, makes sense. And you have actually just touched on the major theme of today's topic, which is using innovation value chain to support the regeneration done. Now, as we all know, innovation is so crucial in the evolution of man. Now, we all know that the saying, the necessity is the mother of all invention. And naturally, this is one area that we need to look at very proactively. But however, as you alluded to, there's a very fine balance between investing in that and reaping the financial economic rewards today. So how do you see that fine tune of that balance being made, especially by the private sector?
Right. How do we actually fine tune the striking a balance between the two? One of the things that perhaps I should have mentioned earlier in response to your question on Industry 4.0, before we segue into innovation, is the fact that one of its major core thrusts, or rather columns, is really the advent, or rather I'm trying to actually think of the best word to use here, but I'm going to use the word rediscover, that at the end of the day, it's not economic value, but rather overall value, human values. Industry 4.0 really delivers. And the difference between Industry 4.0 and 3.0 is that it allows us to actually look back and deliver human values, which then is converted into economic value. Unlike Industry 3.0. Now, I mean, there's a lot of debate ongoing into about this particular element. We saw that when we actually my team visited Germany last year, as a matter of fact, to actually devise the Selangor Industry 4.0 roadmap. Now, from there onwards, I believe that this, or rather the revisiting or relooking at how human values are actually delivered, is actually key to the regeneration initiative. Yeah, because at the end of the day, it's not about how much money you make; it's about how much value, how much an improvement in human quality of life can we actually deliver to everybody. And we see that happening in industry. Interestingly enough, it's not about, they're no longer asking about, okay, how much money can I save here, but rather, okay, what exactly is the value that I deliver, not only to our organization, to my own organization, but also to my stakeholders. Now, talking about striking a balance, it goes back into, believe it or not, sociology. Can we actually convince everybody within the organization, as well as the end users, as to the end value, the overall package? This is where there is a need to actually develop some buy-in skills. But we'll talk about that afterwards. But talking about striking that balance, we need to actually convince everybody, all the major stakeholders, that advent, or rather leveraging on this technology, will actually help us, one, address sociological issues, bring technology, bring maximum impact of that technology across the board, and at the end of it, improve quality of life. Now, if you think about it, that's what people make money for. Yes, they are trying to improve their quality of life. If you can achieve the same thing with less effort, or perhaps with less resources, isn't that your end goal? Of course, it's kind of difficult to actually convince people who have, for example, those who live in a very capitalistic scenario. That's what we are here to talk about. How do we actually convince them?
Fantastic. I like your train of thought there. Basically, to create a win-win-win situation for everyone, as opposed to thinking of it as a zero-sum game, which still some people do. Now, before we break it down even further, why don't we just take a step back and look at it from a macro point of view? So we talk about innovation, we talk about value chain, which are areas that you are well versed in. Could you break it down for our viewers? What exactly is innovation in your eyes, and what is the value chain?
Right. No, I'm not going to define it from my perspective, as a matter of fact. I'm going to define it based on OECD's findings, research work that they've done. A lot of research work that we here in this region haven't really adopted, believe it or not. But I shall not make too much mention about that, or else I'll get censured by the universities. Now, getting back to that, right. Innovation, the crux of innovation is really novel ideas that do end up with end users. Yeah. I mean, you're going to hear all sorts of definitions from universities, from industry, and whatever you. But when you look at the tons of research that's been done over the past 30, 40 years, they've all actually agreed that globally, they've agreed that, okay, what exactly is innovation? At the end of the day, it's novel ideas. You get them to the end users, or there's a real market that has adopted this particular idea. Why is that important? Because we see a lot of, should I say, a lot of parties who actually decide to truncate that definition. They say the moment we are able to sell this novel idea, that's it. Yeah, sell to whom? Whoever, we don't care. Now, why is that important? Especially for a initiative that's as important as Regeneration, because without the public buy-in, those ideas will not bring the values that was envisaged at the start. Yeah. So innovation, that's basically it. Now, the innovation value chain talks about the phases that are required in order to bring that idea to the end users. Hence, that's why they use the phrase value chain. So work with me here, or perhaps should I share a slide with everybody? So the innovation value chain is really broken up into two major phases. First are the creative work behaviors. Now, this phase alone can be broken down into two stages. The first stage is the problem identification. As the name suggests, it's actually devising the necessary tools, leverages, and cognitive thinking to figure out what exactly is the problem being faced. And guess what? There's a lot of problem in the problem identification stage in itself. A lot of organizations struggle with this. But let's talk about that afterwards. Yeah, so that's the first stage of the creative work behavior phase. The second stage is the idea generation stage. This is where a lot of universities, a lot of institutes, research institutes, people, they are quite good at. They're the ideas are a dime a dozen, people say, yes, true, but you still need to go through this particular stage to actually take a look at the gamut of information or opportunities of novel ideas that you have access to. Because then you have a lot of options to match the context that you're faced with. Now, moving on from the creative work behavior stage, we move on to the implementation behavior stage. This is where those novel ideas need to be implemented. The first stage of the second phase is the idea championing stage. Now, this is very interesting because the idea championing stage need people who understand what the technology is all about and the value that it really delivers. See how this actually segues nicely into the Industry 4.0 as support very, very novel, noble initiatives like the Regeneration initiative. So unfortunately, when you talk about technologists, this is actually a well-known fact. Not a lot of technologists are very well versed in championing ideas. They're good at talking about the technicalities, but when you talk about identifying the necessary people, the champions who've got the resources, they're quite bad at it. So finally, the next stage, the next stage in the second phase is the implementation of these ideas. This is where we convert all of the ideas, all of the resources that's readily available into action plans in order to ensure that the novel ideas reach the end users. So there is a pipeline, hence this particular value chain that we must understand, respect, and actually leverage upon, rather than make up our own value chain or our own assumptions that, oh, this is what innovation is. Well, you know, there's been tons of research done on this. Why are you trying to reinvent the wheel? And your wheel is square. What's the point behind that? Yeah.
Yeah, I can see where you're coming from. Now, coming back to the value chain, when you look at the crux of it, end of the day, it's all about the pain and payoff, right? We know that we all have limited resources. You need to find a pain where it will motivate. Like, for example, the current COVID-19 pandemic, we have all the top minds around the world sharing information, data in terms of coming up with a vaccine. So obviously that's a big pain point. And of course, the payoff would mean the safety and the health of the entire global population. So it still boils down to that, right? In terms of allocation of resources on what is the pain points as well as the payoff.
Very much so. That allocation is not so straightforward because one needs to understand the temporal requirements of the various initiatives. As you pointed out, looking for a vaccine, it's going to take time. It's going to take a lot of testing. It's going to take a lot of hard work. In the meantime, what do? Do we just wait for that? And that's where I see a lot of innovator wannabes struggle. They think that, hey, I've got this novel idea. As long as somebody buys it, that's fine. No, it's not good enough. We must actually measure the value, the impact that it delivers to the end users.
Well said. Now, moving forward, how does this link to the regeneration movement? The whole idea of innovation and its value chain.
Right. Now, we have to admit that even at this point in time, with the UN pushing for the Sustainable Development Goals, the SDGs, we see that a lot of people struggle with actually understanding, not just adopting, but understanding how those ideas are fit into their own cultures, their own societies. Now, regeneration is going to take this a step further, but without understanding how to actually not just devise those particular ideas, either technical, social, or whatever, or combination, but understanding how do you actually get the buy-in of different cultures, different societies, it's not going to happen. If we learn from that, then we understand better how to get the society to adopt regeneration-focused initiatives, regeneration-focused technologies. Without that knowledge, it's going to be a big slog. So why do we actually reinvent the wheel? This is why research is actually critical, especially sociological research into technology rollout is critical. With that particular knowledge, you will see that there might even be a possibility to leapfrog SDGs. To say, yes, we understand the value behind SDGs, but guess what? This is where we're going towards. Yes. Talking about that, suddenly the movie Dune comes to mind. I don't know whether you've ever watched the movie that was shot years ago. Economic, or rather, it was, I think, a blockbuster, movie flop, but very important culturally. That particular movie showed the use of this water catching technology or humidity catching technology. Captures the humidity in the air, supplies water. You just need energy to ensure that the system keeps operating. And they actually talk about, the book itself, the novel talks about the basic technology behind, whimsical, but basic technology behind that. So one of the things that we probably need to look at is leveraging on literature, science fiction literature that have already talked about, hey, this is possible. This is feasible. We don't have the money. We don't have but look at the value that it delivers if this works. And we are beginning to see, a lot of that literature driving people towards thinking, let's put our resources in this. Let's have the ability to actually give chance to people who don't have these particular resources. Essentially, regenerative mindset, not just sustainability. Yeah. The issue, of course, there are pockets of it, but perhaps this is where we need to actually work together to really ensure that these pockets don't remain as pockets.
Right. I like your analogy of science fiction there. We watch movies about space and all that, and it's actually turning to reality today. For example, SpaceX by Elon Musk. You can have actually, you and me, if we have obviously the money, we can actually go into space as space tourists. So it shows you're only limited by your creativity and imagination at the end of the day. Okay, now moving on, obviously you mentioned about regeneration. So does regeneration and innovation, is it possible for them to work hand in hand, complementing each other, or there will be situations where they could be in opposite directions?
Oh, they go hand, absolutely. We can see that without the development, or not only development, but also the adoption of the technologies being developed, regeneration is not going to happen. So they actually work hand in hand. They're complementary. Without an understanding of the innovation value chain, ideas will not be adopted. Without those ideas, yes, we won't be able to devise those particular novel methodologies. So this is one of the things that a lot of innovators misunderstand when they try to actually help if they have any specific sustainable focus or regenerative focus. They tend to misunderstand that these two have to be treated. They think that these two have to be treated in isolation. No, they're not. Part of the challenge, and let me share with you the issue here in Malaysia, from my perspective, as an ex-academician and now an industrialist. Part of the problem is we sent too many people to actually study engineering courses, technical courses, but too few people to actually understand or learn up about social sciences, the application, implication, the rollout of these particular technologies, how it affects the buy-in or the take-up of the society. And because of that, we tend to shoot blanks, so to speak, when we do research. Yeah. And it doesn't bite well for any new initiatives that we carry out, because people are going to say, you know what, you're going to spend how much? Into what? Into this water filtering technology? All the previous technologies that's been devised, they just end up as research on shelves in universities, showcases. We're not going to bother. We're not going to buy into this particular technology. So it's essential that the two I was about to say married, but then that's not the right phrase. It's really, they need to be interwoven in order for people to understand, right, this innovation value chain is meant to actually help us support a specific directive. But without the directive, we won't know where these ideas go. We are going to do everything under the sun. We won't be focused. Wait, that sounds like today's story.
Yes, indeed. So by the sounds of it, it seems like we have too many implementers, people taking directions, but we have a dearth of visionaries, people who can perhaps see the future and conceptualize something that can be something amazing that can be implemented. I guess people today that we can see, someone like a Steve Jobs or Bill Gates kind of characters, we are short of those kind of people, aren't we?
Now, these group of visionaries, we really need to understand that they are made up of two groups. The visionaries, the entrepreneurs, yes, we need them. They understand that what the end goal needs to be. But at the same time, these entrepreneurs need to be supported by intrapreneurs who understand the technology, who understand how the technology brings value, understand what are the elements that makes up that technology. And that's where the dearth is. I'll share with you the discussion I had with InvestKL's Director of Investment, Mr. Riyad. Well, I've forgotten his full name now. Mr. Riyad, his KPI for InvestKL is to bring a lot of foreign investments, especially 200 of the top companies in the world to establish their front-end businesses. He told me the problem he has is to convince these investors that Malaysia has what they call the technical leaders, or not the CEO level people, but the C-2 people, the entrepreneurs who understand how to support the entrepreneurs. We don't have a lot of those people. We have a lot of technologists, we have a lot of researchers who understand how to actually follow checklists. They're very good at it. The country, Malaysia, a lot of countries in this region has made billions, contribute a lot to the GDP, having these people. But when we talk about the support for the visionaries, it's just missing. We need to actually start talking to anybody who wants to listen, especially the Ministry of Education, to actually start looking at creating these intrapreneurs. I sincerely believe part of the problem was the overtly focused, excessive focus on leadership. Past couple of years, everybody talks about leadership. I said, look, Professor Robert Kelly already said years ago that you need followers, strong followers, people who can actually back up these visionaries, tell them when they're going down the wrong rabbit hole, and say, look, this won't work, this will work. People who are willing to challenge the visionaries when they attempt to actually do what other people say is the impossible. Right. If we are able to generate these intrapreneurs, it's a perfect combination. We have the entrepreneurs driving the ideas, driving the aims, and we have the intrapreneurs being able to implement, convert all those visions into ideas that can be mapped onto a roadmap. With the roadmap, right, you can actually easily convince investors, you can actually convince people that, hey, we are going down this path. Here's an output. The next stage will be this, next stage will be this, and people will finally believe, hey, we can do this. We can do this.
Right. You essentially answered my last question. Obviously, what the barriers that's slowing down the adoption of regeneration? Of course, education plays a big role in it. The government influence as well, and of course, top-down leadership by example. What other barriers, notable barriers, that you currently see that is hindering our regeneration adoption at this point in time?
Right. Let's talk about financial barriers. A lot of financial organizations, they are very good with what they do. They understand their business models. They understand financial models. They don't understand new technology. So when if I can use that age-old cliche, thinking outside the box, yes, that's great to be creative. But in order to implement, we need to create the box. We need to make people understand the scope of the new ideas, technologies, and methodologies, processes that's being developed or has been developed. Without that understanding, the financiers cannot get their head around the technologies or ideas that we are rolling out. Part of the challenge here is to make organizations or financial institutions understand that they need some sort of not inherent, but rather internal technological comprehension capabilities. I noticed that in this region, only Singapore actively, for example, engages or hires technologists. Singaporean banks and financial institutions, they are actively hiring technologists, engineers, psychologists, sociologists into their fold. So these companies, these organizations have the capacity to look at the technology, to look at a novel idea and say, hey, I know how to actually use that to add value to my end users. Let's adopt that. The story of Grab, from my taxi into Grab. I mean, to me, it's, oh no, what a loss. Khazanah had.
Yeah,
Khazanah
what a shame.
I say, man. Oh boy, right? So when I saw that, when I hear the story, it always rankles because I thought, because our investment agencies do not have that capacity, they let these ideas fall through our fingers.
Grass.
Our grass, yes, thank you. Yes.
Yeah, it's such a shame. Our homegrown company, which unfortunately is not so homegrown anymore. Now, one parting word before we end this interview. What can you see, for example, a company, an SME, for example, can implement today itself to get the ball rolling in terms of innovating as well as creating that value chain?
One thing that they can do is actually find or devise methods to really recognize what exactly are end user pain points. It's actually a big issue. A lot of the organizations, especially SMEs, because they're relatively small, they don't have the capacity. But having said that, if they actually know how to select the right people with these capabilities, as well as understand the strength, the technological strength of the organization, the core competency, then they are able to actually move forward. A lot of the SMEs that I have had to deal with, some of my clients as well, they don't actually understand what their core competence is. They don't understand, for example, hey, okay, we've got a lot of machines, we've got a lot of people, we've got a lot of, when asked, what can we do? We can do all sorts of things. Okay, what's your core competence? We don't know. Okay, one of your core competence has got to be being able to understand what exactly are your end clients' problems. Yeah, we know what they are. No, you don't. Yeah, we know. After about 2 weeks of discussion, then they admit, yeah, we actually don't know. We can do a lot of things, but core competence, I don't know. Core competence, a comprehension of the core competence, that's actually critical for SMEs.
Right, fantastic. Thank you, Dr. RAHMAT, for all your insights with regards to regeneration and, of course, innovation and the importance of the value chain. Well, for our viewers, we have a very exciting forum taking place next week where it's going to be theme Persistent Challenge of Inequality in relation to climate change and gender inequality. Obviously, that is something that's very relevant in today's age, given the vast changes and developments as we see in all parts of the world. On that note, my name is Raj Arya, and thank you for following us on ESG TV. We hope to see you next week. Take care. Good day.